So welcome back to Unleashed Learning TV, the place that helps you boost student engagement and unlock consistent and effective teaching. Now, you know inclusion is a big part of the Unleashed Learning system, and that's why we've got this special 3-part episode with Dr. Richard Villa. Now, many times, Richard, what people are asking us about is differentiation.
Of course.
And everyone has different ideas of what that means. So in our previous episode, you've talked in extensively about what inclusion is. How does differentiation fit within the conversation of inclusion?
Okay. So if you remember in the previous segment, I shared with you the information about the 6 components of variables that tend to be in place in schools that are successfully implementing inclusive practices. And maybe this conceptual framework that we call the schoolhouse model can help show how differentiation fits in with inclusion as well as other initiatives. So in the visual that you see, it is a schoolhouse model. And there are multiple floors in the schoolhouse model. That very top floor is the overarching goal. We want access and success for all, not just physical access. We want the success. To be included, you have to be physically, academically, and socially included. Now, how do you get there? Major initiatives that help us would be differentiating instruction, co-teaching. It would also be database decision-making. And so that all comes together, but yet all those processes require collaboration in planning and creativity. Notice that the foundation of the schoolhouse model is administrative support. That is the articulation of a vision, building consensus for it, the training, the scheduling, the logistics, the cheerleading as you go through change. So if we have a strong foundation of administrative support, we have processes and time for creativity and collaboration, and we marshal our human resources based upon data so that they can collaboratively plan, can co-teach, and we find out facts about learners, then we're poised to be able to differentiate instruction. If we're doing all of those things, we are most likely to be able to achieve that overarching goal of access and success for all. When it comes to differentiation, STAR tells us that differentiating instruction is shaking up what goes on in a classroom. So students will have multiple options for taking in information. So that would be the content we want them to learn and the materials. They'll have multiple options to help them make sense of these ideas. That would be the various processes we use: learning arrangements, learning strategies, learning formats, etc. And they have multiple options for expressing what they know. That would be the products that they know. So differentiation of instruction focuses upon content and materials, products and assessment, and processes of learning. But there's another variable that's absolutely essential, and Hall tells us that you cannot begin to meaningfully differentiate instruction unless you have facts about the learners. We have to recognize and react responsibly to our students' varying background knowledge, readiness, language, culture, interest, learning styles, learning preferences. So for us, there are 4 dimensions, 4 component parts. You have to have facts about the learner, and with that in mind, we differentiate content, products, and process.
It reminds me why the key of students is part of the Unleashed Learning system, because we've got to know who students are, and then we can make the bridge between who the students are and the content. So that's why that's part of the system. So it makes me think of the work that we're doing, the language we're using for this. So what I heard you say was inclusion is the goal, and differentiation in some ways are the strategies to get there. That's how I heard it.
Combined with all the other components in that schoolhouse
Fantastic,
model.
but it's the direction and then the tools, right?
Sure.
With all those pieces. So Richard, educators have a lot on their plate,
For
and
sure.
some of them who are listening might be new to the conversation of differentiation. So do you have some practical tips or advice for people who are just starting the journey, or maybe they want to strengthen their practice with this?
Sure. I think it's important when we talk about differentiation for students, for us to realize we have to differentiate for the instructors as well, because we're all in different places in our journey with differentiation. There are 2 predominant approaches for differentiating. One is known as a retrofit, and the other is universal design for learning. So in the retrofit approach, we're taking something that currently exists that is inaccessible, and we're going to remodel it so that we don't send students away, but we're going to change it so that they can be successful. And that's typically done one student at a time. In universal design, we're trying to be more proactive, where we are going to back up, and before we begin, we're going to think of the wide range of diverse learners and design something that'll be universally accessible along those dimensions. One very concrete practical strategy that I can share, and it will be beneficial for someone who is new to this as well as someone who's a veteran, is what we would call the 4-column mismatch. So basically, you need to gather facts about the learners, but not just what we perceive to be the challenges that a child has. So I need to understand, how is that child smart? So what are their learning preferences, interests, strengths, talents? The more challenging we find a child, the more important strength-based information becomes. So for some learners, I've got to know about hobbies, interests, important people in their lives. And then, of course, what are their goals? But it isn't just about the child. This is about a complex, dynamic interaction between child and environment. So I have to have the courage to step back and examine my current content, product, and process demands. It is only by comparing the facts about a learner to the content, product, process demands of the classroom that I will understand what the mismatches are. So you see, the first column is about facts about the learner. The second is facts about the classroom demands. And the third is, what are the mismatches? Very important for us to understand that when we talk about mismatches, it is never about good kid, bad kid, good teacher, bad teacher. It's simply saying, given these facts about Rich and these classroom demands, we have a mismatch. We identified all of our mismatches in that third column. And then we set out to brainstorm a minimum of 3 to 5 possible solutions per mismatch. That's what goes in the fourth column. This process can be utilized regardless if we're talking about a child with academic difficulty, but it could be behavior, it could be language acquisition, it could be a wide range of challenges. But the most important piece is that we gather facts about the learner and that environmental demand. So let me give you a more concrete example. So here you've got some information about a young student by the name of Kevin. You can see in that first column his strengths and challenges, and you can see the content, product, process demands of the classroom. If you examine it, you should be able to identify some mismatches. So for example, Kevin is predominantly a visual learner, and yet the class is geared for auditory learning through lecture by teacher and by reading from a book, right? So that's a mismatch. Kevin is a visual learner. The activities are geared for auditory learning. We don't solve the problem here. We go on to what are the next possible mismatches. So oral reading is a classroom expectation. Kevin refuses to read orally. And so another mismatch is that Kevin leaves the class when he's frustrated, and staying in class is a classroom norm expectation. Kevin doesn't do homework. Homework is an expectation, right? Kevin reads at a year 4 or 4th grade level, and the materials have a 6th grade or year 6 readability level. So again, that is a mismatch. So you would identify what those mismatches are, refrain from trying to solve it at this time until all mismatches are out, and then you move over to brainstorm. Now, in many of our schools that are most effective, they compile the information in columns 1 and 2 prior to the meeting. People review it. So when you come to the meeting, we say, does anyone have anything to add in facts about the child? We highlight what the child's strengths are. And then, does anyone have anything to add in the classroom? That typically takes us 2 to 3 minutes. Identifying mismatches is usually 2 minutes. And then we brainstorm, usually 5 to 7 minutes. Our teams that have used this and have experienced it over time and do the process with integrity have had up to 30 to 40 ideas generated in that 4th column in 5 minutes. Once all the ideas are out, then we begin to pick our solutions. I can't tell you how many educators have said to me when they go to a meeting and follow this process that when they go back to their classroom, they've got something concrete to try. Some might be in this moment. Some might be, okay, this is going to take more time to get it in place. But even if what I'm trying isn't working, I still have these other ideas to come back to.
It reminds me that I need to know who the student is. It's about being in a community of practice, so it's not trying to solve it by myself. It's seeing the strengths and moving forward with solutions, which is probably why most of us got in the profession, right?
In the first place. And it does have to be done in a collaborative manner. We've actually done it with students, where students they're among the most creative members of our team sometimes, because they'll have less barriers to creativity.
Fantastic. So, as you know, this is our 3-part series with Dr. Villa, so this is part 2, but we do have a question for you thinking about differentiation. So our question for you is this: what are some things that you do currently to differentiate your content or to support the inclusion with differentiation of all your students? So some of those best conversations go in that blog. So please add to the conversation and we might check them out. So thank you for part 2.
You're welcome.
And we will see you in part 3, which is about co-teaching. So we'll see you in the next episode. Do you and your team want an evidence-based system that you can apply in face-to-face, online, or in blended environments that makes learning stick? And we mean stick for everyone? If so, come join our virtual program, How to Unleash Learning, Class of 2020, and learn the system that makes learning stick for everyone. For more details, jump over to unleash-learning.com and we'll show you how to get started.